Today on Alex Autos, we're out here melting in the Louisiana heat, taking a look at the all-new 2015 Lexus RC. Now the RC is available in either 350 or 350 F-Sport, or in an RCF form. Now in this video, I'll be focusing primarily on the RC350 and the RC350 F-Sport. If you want to know about the fire-breathing V8 powered RCF, you'll find that video separately on my channel. There'll be a link down there in the description. Now, if you're wondering why Lexus is now calling the RC an RC rather than a Lexus IS Coupe, the real reason is that this is not just an IS Coupe. It shares some things with the Lexus IS sedan, but it actually shares an awful lot of its structure with the Lexus GS and the Lexus IS-C, which was their hardtop convertible. Now the reason for this sort of hybrid platform was to help improve the stability and handling of the vehicle, because the Lexus GS is a little bit wider and it was also able to accommodate that V8 engine under the hood. So the front end is sort of Lexus GS, right around in the middle we have a little bit of Lexus IS and a little bit of Lexus IS-C sort of blending together right here in the back. Up front, we have the latest version of Lexus's signature spindle grille. That's what they call this section right here. Now, it is different on the regular RC350. Right now, we're taking a look at the RC350 F-Sport, which gives us this sort of squiggle treatment to this entire grille. It's also darkened versus that regular grille. Personally, I find this the more attractive option. I'll go ahead and post a picture here so you can see what the regular one looks like. It has some vertical slats right up here and then some sort of different things going on the bottom, but we still get the overall spindle format. Now be sure and let me know what you think about the looks of the vehicle down there in the comments section down below. Sort of accentuating the Angry Birds theme that we have going on here, we have these teardrop shaped headlamps, and they're divorced from the daytime running lamps. The daytime running lamp is in this little Nike swoosh right down here, and then this headlamp module, interestingly enough, actually curves inwards towards the vehicle and then comes right back out over here. I haven't seen that in any other car out there. It is definitely a unique look. Now, if you get the RCF, you get different headlamps. So this is what we get in the RC and the RCF Sport. Now, one really interesting touch is the fog lamp positioning in this vehicle. You notice you don't have a fog lamp over here. It makes this section of the bumper very clean. They actually put it right here. It's the small circle right here just inside of the spindle grille. It's really obvious that this vehicle was designed with LED fog lamps in mind, because most other vehicles out there, they have a very large fog lamp module. It's really not needed with an LED because LEDs are so small. So this is really one of the first vehicles that really takes advantage of the format that's possible with an LED lamp. If you get the optional radar cruise control system, they do hide that radar cruise control module right here behind the Lexus logo. The side profile of the RC is just about as dynamic as the front. You can see we have a lot of swooshes going on here. We also have these aggressive fender bulges over the front and the rear wheels. If you take a look at the ruler at the bottom of your screen, you can see how the Lexus IS stacks up against the competition. Overall, this does compete with the likes of the Cadillac ATS Coupe, the CTS Coupe as well. We also compete with the Audi A5, the S5, the BMW 4 Series, and the Mercedes-Benz C-Class Coupe. Out back, we have a trunk lid that acts also as a spoiler. It definitely has a definite tip up right there. And you'll notice that the roof line plunges very drastically towards the rear, and that does limit rear headroom. We have a little bit less rear headroom here than you'll find in some of the competitive models. Now out back, again, keep in mind that we are in the RC350 F-Sport. Lexus did not have any standard RC350 models to sample today. Hopefully I'll be able to have one at some point soon. So all I've been able to see today are the RCF and the RCF Sport. You can see from the back end that Lexus really designed the RC to be more expressive than any of their models in the past. We have these tail lamp modules that really bump out from the body of the vehicle, especially on this side profile right here. Although this look isn't as exaggerated as it is on the RCF, the body still comes in, goes back out around the lamp, and then comes back in, and then goes back out around the wheel well. Now, in case you're wondering, this is just an aesthetic treatment. This is not a functional duct. Now, these tail lamp modules are all LED, and they have sort of a Lexus logo design theme going on right there that mimics the Nike swoosh going on up front in the daytime running lamp modules. We have F-Sport badging right there. We are in the all-wheel drive model, and we have these trapezoidal exhaust tips lower down in the bumper. Now, in the regular RC, there is only one engine offered at this time, and in typical Lexus fashion, it is a naturally aspirated V6 engine. So things do not start out with a turbocharged 4 like you find in most of the competitors. This is essentially the same 3.5-liter V6 engine that you find in the Lexus IS350. It produces 306 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. This engine is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission by default, sending power to the rear wheels. If you opt for the optional all-wheel drive system, then they do drop that 8-speed automatic for the older 6-speed automatic. Fuel economy on this V6 comes in at 19 miles per gallon city, 28 highway, and 22 combined in rear-wheel drive form, 19, 26, 21 if you opt for that 6-speed automatic and the all-wheel drive system. Now, if that's not enough power for you, you can step up to the RCF model, which will drop this 3.5-liter V6 engine for a 5-liter V8 engine. That's a brand new engine for Lexus. It produces 467 horsepower and 389 pound-feet of torque. If you want to know more about that RCF, then go ahead and click on over to that RCF video. There'll be a link down there in the description section. Front seat comfort comes in at 8 out of 10 points. Now the RC F seat is a little bit more comfortable than this for my particular body shape. It does have more aggressive bolstering, so depending on your particular body size or body shape, that may dictate which RC model is best for you. The regular RC model doesn't have quite so much bolstering, the F-Sport gets a little bit more, then the RCF gets the most. Now regardless of which model you get, we get a 10-way driver's adjustable seat that also includes a 2-way adjustable lumbar support. We also have a tilt telescopic steering column with a moderate range of motion that is memory linked. Like other Lexus models and a number of the competition, leather is not standard. By default, we get new Lux leather seats. Leather is available. However, these new Lux seats are also available both heated and cooled, which is kind of a nice touch. Some of those vehicles out there, in order to get the cooled seats, you do have to step up to real leather, and on this vehicle, you don't have to do that. Now Lexus tells us that new Lux will wear better than leather, and in addition to that, new Lux is also bonded to the seat foam, so you tend to get less crinkly going on right here on the outer seat bolster because you're getting in and out of the vehicle when you compare it to leather. However, personally, I find it doesn't breathe quite as well as leather. So if you are planning on getting the new Lux seats and breathability is a concern, then be sure and get the ventilated seat option because that really does make the new Lux seat very comparable to a leather seat. Now once you get in the back seat, the front seat will automatically move back to the last position that it remembered. Now don't worry, if it hits an obstacle of any sort as it's moving rearward, it will automatically back up and move frontward again, so it won't be crushing your children or your feet in the back seat. Sitting right here behind myself, I really don't have any legroom left. My knees are touching this seat. However, legroom is not really the problem, it's headroom. I actually have to cock my head to one side in order to sit back here in this back seat. Still, this is more comfortable than you'll find in some of the smaller coupes out there on the market. Now, in typical Lexus fashion, this rear passenger compartment is finished very nicely. We have a lot of soft touch plastics going on here. We have a soft touch armrest. This is a dedicated 4-seater, so there's no center seat. Do keep that in mind. Now, aiding in cargo practicality in the RC350 and 350 F-Sport models, we have rear seats that do fold so that you can stick long items from the trunk right here into the passenger area. Now, if you opt for the RCF, we do not get the folding rear seats because there's some additional chassis bracing right back here for structural rigidity. Now, taking a more detailed look around the interior, we have height adjustable headrests for all 4 seating positions. Now, as I said earlier, we have fixed shoulder belts. Now, taking a look at the door panel, you can see that we have a lot of stitched pieces of fabric going on there that really gives that a more upscale look. Our particular model has aluminum trim running right up there, and then we also have this faux carbon fiber look right there by the window switches. Now, if we expand outwards, we have an awful lot of soft touch materials going on both in the upper portion of the door as well as the lower portion of the door. Now, if this dashboard looks familiar to you, then you're probably thinking of the Lexus IS. Decent portion of the RC dashboard is borrowed directly from that Lexus IS model. That means that over here on the passenger side, we have a moderately sized glove box. I was not able to fit an iPad right there in the glove box. It's just a little bit too shallow. It is relatively tall and wide. It's just not terribly deep. Set back into the dashboard, we have this 7-inch Lexus Enform infotainment system. Now, our particular model has the optional navigation software, but if you don't get the nav software, then you get the same sized screen. You just don't get that nav ability, and you get a slightly different controller lower in the dashboard. Below the analog clock, we have our controls for our dual zone climate control system. These are touch sliders right over here like you find on certain Cadillac models. However, the rest of the buttons are all physical buttons in this vehicle. Below that, we have certain fixed buttons for the infotainment system, power volume knob, eject button, radio, media, track forward backward button, single slot optical disc player, play pause, as well as a tune and scroll button. Our particular vehicle does have the up-level Mark Levinson sound system with the optional navigation. Because we have the optional navigation system, if we flip down this little panel, you'll find the slot for the SD micro card there for the navigation database. It is flash-based, so it's a little bit faster than the old hard drive-based systems. We have the button for our available steering wheel heater right over there, and we have the controls for our heated and cooled seats. Again, we are in the new Lux model, but we still get that cooled seat option. Working our way down the center console, we have a very traditional console shifter right over here. We move it to the left for manual, up for up, down for down. It is gated, so you can see it jogs around there a little bit when you go from park to drive. Over here on this side, we have our drive mode select button. We have 4 different modes: Eco, Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus. Depending on how your vehicle is equipped, this knob can control just the drivetrain, or it can also control the drivetrain, the steering ratio, as well as the adaptive suspension if your vehicle is so equipped. We have our stability and traction control disable button right here, and we have our snow button right there below that. Now, below that shifter, let's zoom in on this. This is the latest Lexus Remote Touch controller. This replaces that sort of joystick-like thing that they had before that. This operates very much like a trackpad on a laptop computer. You wiggle your finger around and the cursor on the screen wiggles around in coordination with your finger. You click down and the whole button bank clicks down to enter. In addition to that, we have haptic feedback in the system, so as you move your finger around this touchpad, it actually vibrates very much like an Android phone. We have a dedicated home button, menu button, and back button right over there. If you do not opt for the navigation system, you get a more traditional rotary knob that clicks down to enter. I actually find that more intuitive to use than this touchpad arrangement. I find this requires a little bit more hand-eye coordination than most of the competing systems that do use a more generic control knob. Now moving on over to the right side of that controller, we have two very large cup holders right over here that we're easily able to accommodate large takeout sodas. Behind that, we have a softly padded center armrest. It opens right there in that fashion, and inside we find two USB ports and an auxiliary input. We don't really have a whole lot of console storage space in here because this is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. All F-Sport models have this standard LCD instrument cluster. If you do opt for the non-F-Sport model, then we get a more traditional analog cluster. The instrument cluster is controlled with this 5-way joystick button on the right side of the steering wheel. Down to enter, left, right, up, and down. We also have a page change button and a dedicated back button. Now, not everything you're seeing here is an image on that LCD instrument cluster. This ring right around the tachometer is actually a physical ring, and it moves side to side depending on what you do with this instrument cluster. So if I press the button on the steering wheel, you can see it slides over there to the right, taking the tachometer with it, giving us a multifunction display on the left. Now, this multifunction display gives you your typical information, and you'll notice that our fuel gauge and our engine temperature gauge also moved over there to the left. So if I click that back to the left, you'll see that we now have engine temperature over there and fuel level right over there on the right. Again, click it back, both of those move over to the left. You can see right over here we have our typical trip computer information, gear position, tire pressure, miles per gallon, range, eco indicator, etc. Now, if we had a navigation destination entered in the system, you would see turn-by-turn directions right here on this screen. We also have a media screen. This allows you to change your audio source. You can select from the usual suspects right there. We also have iHeart, Pandora, and Slacker integration right there in that menu. We also have cruise control information on this system because this vehicle is equipped with the dynamic radar cruise control system, so you can see a little display of that system right in there. We also have vehicle settings available in this same display. Moving on out, we have a 3-spoke steering wheel. We have shift paddles right here behind the steering wheel, down on this side, up on the other side. This button module right here controls the radio, volume up, down, track up, down, mode button, dedicated phone hang up and pick up button right over here. Again, we have those same controls I showed you earlier right here on this side. This is the radar cruise control button. This controls the distance that the car is following the car in front of you. Cruise control buttons right down here on the stock that turns with the steering wheel like that. You can see this is a 3-spoke F-Sport steering wheel. It is very, very similar to the F steering wheel it is on the RCF model. The leather is a little bit different, but the shape of the steering wheel is still very much the same. Now, over on the driver's side door, it is a little bit difficult to see, but we do have ambient lighting right here in this little strip right above the metal trim. It's very difficult to see, but it is sort of a white ambient lighting right there between the door handle and this aluminum trim on the door. Accommodating trunks have long been a Lexus hallmark, and the RC doesn't let us down here either. I'll give this trunk overall 8 out of 10 points in my exclusive Trunk Comfort Index. We do have a compact spare tire down here, which is a feature that I like. We also have a very handy helper handle to help you close the trunk. Now, the F-Sport version of the RC350 pipes a little bit more engine noise into the cabin. I'm told that this is an electronic system, but it is actually using noises generated by the engine and then amplifying them and sending them into the cabin, so these are not canned engine noises like you'll find in some of the competition. When it comes to acceleration, it's important to keep in mind that this is a naturally aspirated engine, so performance-wise, this is going to feel more like the Infiniti G37, the Cadillac ATS 3.6-liter V6, etc. It's not going to feel quite like an Audi S5 or a BMW 435i because those are forced induction engines. The BMW is a turbocharged and the Audi is a supercharged engine. Those have a lot more low-end torque and an awful lot more torque overall than this naturally aspirated engine. However, naturally aspirated engines tend to be more linear in their power delivery, so this will feel a little bit more predictable. There's definitely no turbo lag in this vehicle like you do get a little bit of in that 435i. Now, of course, turbo lag aside, the BMW 435i is still going to be faster than this. Lexus does tell us that this should slot in right around 5.6 to 5.8 seconds, 0 to 60. It is a little bit slower than the 435i. So in terms of acceleration, I'll have to give this 7 out of 10 points. Now, there aren't a whole lot of curves on the road that I'm on right now, so let's talk about the ride first. The ride in the RC is very well tuned, especially in the F-Sport version that we're in right here, which has the dynamic damping system in it. And I'm actually a little bit surprised because this dynamic damping system changes more than most other vehicles out there with an adaptive suspension. When we're in this eco mode and we're in the softest suspension setting, this suspension is very, very soft. It actually is almost a little bit floaty. Some people may find that comfortable. I actually find that comfortable for long highway drives in that eco mode. Now, if we put it in sport mode, it's going to firm things up a little bit. I actually like the way sport mode feels. I would probably commute my daily commute in that particular suspension setting. And then if we put it in Sport Plus, it is yet firmer, and that is still a very compliant ride, but it definitely is a sportier feel. Now, even in Sport Plus mode and the stiffest as the suspension will go, it is important to keep in mind that the RC is still a Lexus at heart, so all those Lexus qualities of refinement still apply. So this ride is still going to be a little bit softer than in the sport suspensions that you can get in some of the competition. Now, unlike some of those other adaptive suspensions out there, this suspension never felt unsettled over rough pavement, especially when pushing it to its limits in corners. And that is something that some of those adaptive suspension systems have troubles doing. When it comes to handling, I'll give this 8 out of 10 points. I haven't had too much time to put this around its paces, and I haven't had it on my home turf to really drive it on the same roads that I drive every other car out there, but this has a very balanced dynamic to it. That's all down to the weight balance. The RC is very, very well balanced, very similar to what you see in the BMW 435i. The RC model gets 9 out of 10 points when it comes to my braking section. That's because there's an unusual dedication to braking technology and braking performance in this vehicle. Base models get 4 piston calipers up front with large rotors and a large swept area. F-Sport models take that to the next level with 6 piston calipers, 2-part rotors, and high friction brake pads. Now, 2-part rotors are not terribly common, especially in vehicles with this kind of a price tag. 2-piece rotors basically mean that the hat of the rotor, which is the part in the center that actually bolts to the vehicle, and the rest of the rotor, which is the part that actually does the braking for you, are 2 completely separate pieces, and they're bolted together. Now, the reason that's important is because when brakes get hot, the hub, which is connected to the vehicle, again, as I said, and the other part that actually does the braking for you, those expand and contract at different rates. And if you didn't have a 2-piece rotor, then that can tend to lead to warp issues over time. Now, with a 2-piece rotor, they try and solve that by having the rim separate from the hat, and that allows them to expand and contract at different rates without causing the other to warp. Now, it is important to keep in mind that when it comes time to replace your brakes, the F-Sport brake rotors are going to be more expensive than the standard RC350's brake rotors because there's more going on. Value pricing and low cost of ownership have long been Lexus traits, and that's continuing for the 2015 model year. Although complete pricing details are not available at this point, we do know that the RC will start at $42,790 for the rear-wheel drive form, and if you want to add all-wheel drive, that will cost you $45,025. Now, if you get the all-wheel drive version, fuel economy does drop, and you don't get the 8-speed automatic, as I said earlier. You do get the 6-speed instead. If you have the cash to burn, Lexus will sell you the RCF, which is the fire-breathing V8 version, for $62,400. Lexus hasn't said how much this particular vehicle will set you back. It is a 2015 RC350 F-Sport, but my expectation is that this will set you back about $52,000. Now, the version we're taking a look at here is the all-wheel drive F-Sport version, and Lexus hasn't said how much this one will set you back, but I expect it's around $52,000 or so. Now, in addition to the aesthetic improvements we get on the front end, the F-Sport package brings a lot of standard equipment with it as well. We get the adaptive suspension system, 19-inch wheels, high-friction brake pads, 2-piece rotors. We also get the black headliner, the TFT instrument cluster, the F-Sport seats, variable steering ratio system, only on the rear-wheel drive model. If you do get the all-wheel drive model, you lose that variable steering ratio gear. In addition to those features, we also get some aesthetic improvements on the inside, like sport pedals and a variety of different interior color combinations. In terms of the competition, the Mercedes-Benz C350 will set you back $44,000. That's about $2,000 more than this. The C350 is also an older vehicle. It really feels like it on the inside. BMW's 435i is an all-new model, but it shares most of its interior components with the current generation BMW 3 Series, and it is a little bit older than this interior as well. That will set you back about $4,000 more than the RC350. Now, of course, that 435i is turbocharged, so it produces more torque, and it is definitely faster 0 to 60 than the RC, just like the BMW 335i is faster than the IS350 out on the road. However, that said, the RC feels very balanced. It's very similar to the difference between the 3 Series and the Lexus IS. The RC feels very, very well balanced with that V6 engine under the hood. It feels very connected to the driver. It's a little bit more connected feeling in terms of general driving dynamics than that BMW 435i. I suspect that if you're on a very curvy track, the RC will be faster around the track than that 435i, but if you're on a track that has any kind of straightaways on it, then the 435i will be much faster than this because of that turbocharged engine. Now the Audi competition is a little bit tricky because the A5 is a 220 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo engine. That's $40,000. It's about $2,000 cheaper than this RC350. However, the S5, which is their 330 horsepower V6 model, that will set you back $52,000. That's $10,000 more than the RC. Now that Audi S5 of course has Audi Quattro and it does have an 8-speed automatic. This, if you get it with all-wheel drive, you will get the 6-speed automatic. Now very much like the BMW Lexus comparison, comparing the Audi to the RC has a better feel. It's better balanced out on the track, especially out on your curvy mountain road. This is going to feel a little bit more connected to the driver. However, the S5 is definitely going to be faster, especially when you're comparing that S5 to the all-wheel drive version of the RC, because the RC gets that 6-speed automatic transmission and the S5 still has the 8-speed automatic, even though it has Quattro. Now, surprisingly enough, even the Cadillac ATS 3.6 is going to be more expensive than the RC350. It comes in at $46,145. Of course, there are less expensive versions of that ATS than you'll find of the Lexus RC. But if you're comparing value for value, like for like, the Lexus RC350 is the best value in this segment. You have to keep in mind that value and pricing are not the same thing. So if you're after the least expensive entry in this particular segment, the ATS Coupe in its base form is probably going to be your best bet. If, however, you're looking for the best value in the segment, it's without a doubt this Lexus RC. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the 2015 Lexus RC350 and RC350 F-Sport. If you want to know more about this vehicle, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel because I should have a complete review based on a week with this vehicle coming out in the next few months. This vehicle will be retail available in the United States by December of the 2014 calendar year. In the meantime, go ahead and click that subscribe banner at the bottom of your screen so you can be updated on all of my latest videos, again including the full review on this as well as the full review on the Lexus RCF. You can also find me over at facebook.com/AlexandAutos, over at Twitter as AlexandAutos, and you can always email your questions to alex@alexandautos.com. I'll see you next week.